Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Yeah, fucking cars.
Yeah, fucking some cars and then a truck.
Oh, hey, everybody.
Shimon. Hi, everyone.
Did you just do the Michael Jackson?
Uh-huh.
Oh, fuck. My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Titane.
Titane.
Titan.
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 Titane.
Titane.
Titanium.
Titanium. These are all words.
Uh-huh.
Or not. I don't know.
Ça va pas?
Oh, je suis crevé.
Tu veux que je te prête mon lit?
If you say enough words over a long enough period of time, it becomes a movie.
It's true. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
That's how movies are made.
That is how movies are made.
This movie, Titane, is the winner of our Twitter poll, where we asked people what movie should we cover. It was neck and neck with No Time to Die, and then this crossed it. This is I could look up the final results, I guess.
This came a rumbling and a roaring over the finish line.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, I'm glad for a few reasons. One, I had already seen this movie.
Yeah.
Two, this movie's a lot shorter than No Time to Die.
It's about an hour shorter, yeah.
Yeah, and three, this movie's more interesting. I still am excited to watch No Time to Die. I might watch it today, just for Dave. You know?
Yeah, I may watch it at some. I still haven't seen. Like, I'm bad at the Craig Bonds. So I'm one reason I'm glad we did Titane. Instead is that I didn't see Spectre, so I would have been kind of fucking lost on No Time to Die.
Spectre's. I didn't like Spectre. They do the thing, you'll see. They do a thing that movies were doing at the time.
I know what it is, yeah.
Okay, where, they try to make everything previous.
Yeah.
There's, like, one villain. Bond is kind of boring, in my opinion. Yeah. That isn't to say I don't enjoy it, but it's just, it's not this movie. We should talk about this movie.
Yeah, we should talk about this film.
Because this movie is not
motion
boring.
Picture.
This is director Julia, French last name. I'll learn it eventually. I have to, because she's made 2 films.
Yeah.
This and Raw, and I have loved both of them. And she's made some shorts as well, but 2 feature films.
Ducournau?
Ducournau?
I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah. Ducournau, Julia Ducournau. That sounds fine. I really liked Raw. And I really like this movie. I'm loving her work. What did you think of this movie, Tom?
I liked this movie. As soon as I figured out it wasn't literal.
Yeah.
Because for a minute there, I was like, "This is like 17 hats."
Yeah.
On top of each other. But yeah, no. This movie is not. I mean, there is a literal plot, but this movie is much more about themes and emotions than telling like a literal story.
Yes. This, for the record, Raw is a little. It's easier to
from what I've
digest.
From what I've heard of Raw, it is similar. It has a similar theme about inherited trauma.
Yes. Yeah. But like the plot itself is more literal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
This is good fucking god. This is what's our main character's name? Alexa, I think.
Alexia.
Alexia.
Yeah.
This is about a young girl who gets in a car accident as a kid. She has to have a titanium plate put in her head, and she seems to suddenly have an attraction to cars. We cut to her as an adult, and she is living the dream as someone who is horny for cars, which is that she's like
there's like an
car
industry
show dancer.
Yeah, there's like a whole industry in this film of exotic dancers specifically dancing on cars, and they're like these big auto shows that people would go to, and she has fans. Like, she's famous for this.
Yeah, I something tells me this is real.
It very well might be.
Yeah, this is a corner of the world, a little pocket. And so she's doing her thing. She's dancing on cars. And then it starts with her going to her car, and she gets followed by a dude, and it's like, oh fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells her he loves her. She gets into her car. He tells her he loves her. He starts being grabby. She starts kissing him, and then out of her hair, I believe, takes out like a chopstick.
Well,
it's not wooden.
He grabs her face and starts kissing her.
Yeah, but she starts,
and then she starts kissing him back, and then she stabs him in the ear with this
not
hairpin.
because she's into it.
No.
She's doing it to distract him while she stabs him directly in the ear.
Sort of. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
It's not entirely to distract him, I don't think. I don't think that's what the movie is trying to say. But anyway.
That's a good point, because so this seems like it at first seems like, oh, self-defense. She like drags the guy in her car, which
kind of sort of. She's weirdly detached. Like,
right.
It seems like it's self-defense, but also that she's like really super okay with it. Like, it's like she just swatted a fly.
Yes, and when she drags him into her car, I was like, oh, that's weird. Because normally, if you just killed someone for the first time, you would drive off and panic. Which, of course, we learn is not the case. And so she gets his, like, goo on her. Like, not her, like, his spittle.
He starts foaming at the mouth when she stabs his brain.
Yeah.
It's brain foam, you know.
It's brain foam. So she goes to take a shower. And then she sees one of the cars is left over in the show, so she has sex with the car. And I'm not sure how else to describe that.
That's it. That's how you describe it. She has sex with the car.
Yes. Inside of the car, it's consensual.
Yeah.
Sex with a car. The car seems to be alive.
Yeah. The car, by the way, gets her attention by pounding on the door somehow. That's how she notices it. She's in the shower.
Right.
Somebody's beating on the door. She goes and checks. There's nobody there except the car that she was dancing with earlier. And the car is covered in flame decals, and that's important.
Yeah. And so she fucks the car. We also learn that she lives with her parents, and there's like there's a weirdness with that. Her dad seems to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Her he
dad's
seems
also
to not
the reason
like her.
Her dad's the reason for her accident.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, she was being a fussy kid in the beginning. She unbuckles her seatbelt, and he turns completely around to start scolding her, and then crashes. And because she's not wearing her seatbelt, she bashes her head on the window and has to get a plate in her head.
Yeah.
So there's this. There's some kind of weird beef. It's not clear if it's abuse. It's not clear if it's just he doesn't like her. Or
tension.
It's guilt is mixed in there too, because he's obviously guilty for her accident. It's a lot of things.
And so we start going into her daily life. She meets a woman that she met earlier at the car show. She's one of the dancers. It seems like, oh, this is going to be like, okay, we're going to go into her relationship. No, she kills her. And it turns out that she's just a fucking murderer. In a delightful scene.
Yeah,
she's at like a house party.
Kills everyone in the house.
Yeah, well, it becomes this compounding thing. It's like when you play a video game and they're all running for the alarm, where like she kills her, and then a guy comes downstairs, and then she has to kill him with a stool, which she shoves in his mouth and then sits on the stool. And I was like, that is fucking gnarly. And then another person gets out and she has to kill them. And it keeps happening where just all these witnesses keep showing up and she keeps having to kill them. And it doesn't go well. And they make her. Like, they basically, there's witnesses left behind.
Yeah.
We learn from the TV there's been a series of murders and it's just clearly her.
Yeah. And her dad seems to maybe be aware of it.
Yeah. So she goes home and she takes off her clothes and she sets them on fire because they're evidence, and they start lighting her basement on fire, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to roll with this.
Now's my chance, yeah.
Yeah. So she goes upstairs and she locks her parents in their bedroom and leaves. They are, I assume, dead. We don't hear from them anymore.
Unclear.
Yeah, unclear.
As for the purposes of our movie, she is now free of them.
Yeah. So she's on the run, and there's she's on the news, her police sketch. At the same time, she's hearing about this father who's been missing a son for like 11 years. And she sees a picture of what the son would look like today, and she thinks, oh, I could look like that. So she's in a train station, I believe, and she chops off all of her hair. She breaks her own nose in an excruciating scene. And she turns into like she basically makes herself look like this son. She bandages down her boobs.
Sort of. There's a part of the through line of this is that she looks nothing like the kid.
She looks like a fucking Eminem fan.
Yeah, she shaves her eyebrows. She's got this busted nose. She looks like a 90s white rapper.
Yeah, she really
100%,
does.
100%, yeah.
She doesn't speak. She shows up and the dad instantly is like, that's my son.
Yeah.
I'm taking you home. And home is a fire station. He is a fireman.
Mm-hmm. Remember those flame decals from earlier?
Yep.
And the fact that she burned her house down to escape her parents. Yeah, it's all there. It's coming together. Anyway.
Everybody else is like, that's clearly not his son. But
yeah,
well, they're not at first, but then it becomes very clear. But he won't have it. He tells everybody, like, if you say a word about my son, I'll kill you. He is very intense. He's shooting up, I believe, steroids.
It's steroids, yeah, because he's we see him injecting steroids into his butt and trying to do the physical portion of a fireman's exam, and he can't do it, even though he's like a swole dude. He's old.
Yeah.
So
he is, man, what a man. He's very red.
He's very red. Yeah, this man has a lot of things going on.
Yes,
he's a tempest of a man.
He really is. And so like she's not talking, and he's just like, you'll talk when you're ready. And at first she's just trying to get the fuck away because she was just using this as like one leg of her journey, basically. Yeah. And so he's locking her in the room. And eventually he's like, I don't know why you keep wanting to get away. Here's the fucking key. She leaves, gets on a bus, and like this was interesting. She gets on the bus and there's like a bunch of dudes harassing a woman on the bus. Mm-hmm. And they both look at each other, and then she just leaves the bus.
Yep.
And she's just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And the implication is like she doesn't want to go back out there.
Correct.
Like
that's how I read that anyway. She's like, well, I could, because this movie's about a lot of things. There's also a trans message here and a message about how you present. Because she's like, well, I could go back to being a woman and be that, or I can go back to being this guy's son and be loved and accepted. Yeah,
there's definitely. Yeah, I didn't flag her as being trans because she's doing it to assume the identity, but there's definitely that element.
I'm saying like a theme, not necessarily the character herself isn't trans, I don't think, but
But that is true, where she's like, it's easy, I'm in being a guy.
I'm accepted here, I'm part of a team. Everybody likes me. I've got this dad who likes me. He's not like my weird other dad.
Got tons of firemen dance parties.
Yeah.
I love that the firemen have like weird dance parties every night.
Sure.
Good for them. Shit, there was another thing I was going to mention. Well, she's also noticing that she's pregnant.
Grotesquely. She's giving birth to a car baby.
Yes, she's
It's like
she's lactating
she lactates
oil.
oil. She's bleeding oil. Like if menstrual bleeding, just oil. Her stomach is tearing open, and we can clearly see like the Shredder's armor or something underneath there, just shiny chrome.
And it's slowly happening throughout the film. It's very Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she keeps having to tape it all down, bandage it all down. So she's getting all these marks on her body from the stress of that. So like as this progresses, her body is getting more beaten up by the pregnancy and her trying to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fireman dad slowly starts showing her the ropes, teaching her how to fight fires, how to do CPR.
Yeah, which he counts with Macarena, which I thought was very fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
yeah. It's the idea. There was a review of this that said it's like it's either the sweetest movie or most fucked up movie of the year, and it's kind of both.
It's both.
Where there's these very sweet moments where basically this woman who's been murdering people saves a life. And it's like a profound moment. Like this man teaches her how to save a life and treats her like a son, and is very loving and supportive.
Yeah.
In his weird ass way. He wants to wrestle at one point.
Yeah, the
but
dance
it's about
wrestle.
like breaking. Yeah, it's like breaking tension. Like he's very loving in this. A very weirdly specific way.
Yeah, and she doesn't know kind of how to react to it. There's also a moment, I think before the CPR moment, where she decides not to murder him. Like, she's going to kill him and then doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It's when she comes back from the bus. She comes inside and he's injected. He thinks that his fake son has abandoned him, so he injects himself with too much steroids. He tries to kill himself.
Yeah. It's very much like a feral animal being taken in. Where it's like
very much, yeah.
Yeah, where she doesn't quite know how to deal with the love.
Well, because her reaction, we'll get into that. It's her reaction / association with love, affection, sex, all the above is violence.
Yeah.
So she just does violence as a form of affection, or just like, well, this is what happens next. So that's like a bit of what I wanted to talk about when she's kissing that first dude. It's like there's the look on her face isn't I'm distracting him. It's like, okay, we're doing this now. And the next evolution of that is I'm going to kill him. Like that's just the next stage of this.
Right. It's hard to tell what happened to her.
Yeah.
But she seems to be a bit of a sociopath, basically. And so it's the idea of a sociopath being welcomed into this loving, accepting, and even though she's acting weird because she's not his son, he doesn't care. And we'll get to that because we start seeing specifically one moment where he's training as a fireman. They're doing a simulation.
Oh,
and
good.
He opens a cabinet.
I was wondering if you picked up on this because I did a bit of reading about the movie after I finished watching it, and I didn't see anybody mention this element of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nope. None of the things I read caught this.
Well, he opens a cabinet and he sees a burning little boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the simulation stops and the boy's not there.
Yeah. And
that was a big red flag to me.
And the guy that's in there with him is like, "What are you looking at?" Like he was hallucinating and there was no boy there.
Yeah. So funny thing about this movie, about halfway through, I figured out how it would end. Which was weird for a movie like this, but it is still a movie, and that's a good thing.
It set all it up, yeah.
Yes, it's doing a 3-act formula. It's doing a character arc. So that's the reason why, and that's good for something like this. It's not just weird for the sake of weird. And I feel like the way we're explaining it, it's very much a not weird. I mean, it's weird, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So the reveal that happens is basically his ex-wife shows up and she takes one look at her and it's like, you're not the son. And you could tell a lot of people are like, that's not your son.
He has like a pseudo son, like a semi-adoptive son named Rayanne, I think, at the academy, who's at first is like whatever the captain says. Yeah, he's his son. But then he starts to notice that she's clearly not his son. Like his son had like really dark skin. Like she's very obviously not his son.
Yeah, but then there's a very obvious reason, which is what
Yes.
Basically, the wife shows up, and you can tell she doesn't even have to look at her. She walks in on her bandaging herself, so she sees that it's clearly not her son. It's a pregnant lady. And she just says, "You better not hurt him." And the reveal here is that his son is dead. His son isn't missing. They never say it.
They never literally say it, but I sort of suspected it from jump too. And as soon as you see that hallucination, I'm like, oh, his kid's dead, and they just didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, he died in a fire.
He died in a fire, and they just didn't tell anyone. Fire. They told everyone he was missing.
Right. And so the wife is just like, yeah, this is not your son. I know this for a fact. I don't even have to look at him because, yeah, your son's dead. He hasn't gotten over that fact. And he also he clearly knows
it. He knows it.
Yeah. And so what's happening is that it's suddenly you realize, because at first the first half of this is like, when's the
penny going to drop? Yeah.
Yeah. When is he going to find out and be enraged, and she's going to have to kill him, or something dark's going to happen, and it's going to, it's like that classic, like, oh, they're keeping a lie from someone, and it's, oh, knock knock, oh, I got to cover up real quick, I got to hide everything. And then you realize quickly, like, it doesn't matter, it's a mutual situation.
Yeah.
They're using each other.
Yes.
He's and all this time, it's been this, again, very sweet relationship where, like, they're using each other for, like, to hide, but also they grow to like each other in that father-son way. It's very interesting. And at this point, she cannot hide the fact that she's super pregnant.
No, yeah, this is. There's also a beat that gets kind of skipped over in there is he kills his like surrogate son.
Yeah. How did that happen? It's he gives the fire.
They're fighting a fire in a forest where there's a camper, and they go in there and get the propane tank so that it won't explode when the fire gets to it. That scene was really
cool.
Yeah, and then he hands it to Rayanne, the surrogate son, who is like, "Are you sure we don't want to? Is it clear? Are we all cleared?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then it cuts to a distance away, and the explosion happens, and then it cuts to back into the forest where you see the captain get up and kind of walk over and look down at what can only be Rayanne's dead body, even though we never really see it.
Yeah.
So because Rayanne has started to piece it, not just that Alexia is not his son, but also that she specifically is this murderer that everybody's looking for.
Right.
He has killed him to keep that secret.
Her.
Yeah, to protect her, to keep that secret. Yeah.
And so this all culminates to him sort of like he walks in on her naked, and he just covers her up and basically just confirms, like, no, you're my son.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care. He says, like, I don't care who you are.
Yeah, he says, whoever you are. Yeah, whoever you are, you're my son. and I love you.
Yeah, and it's like, sure, man.
That ties to the movie's theme too, of
right.
However you present, you're still the person that you are.
Oh yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, their relationship is very sweet. Like the dancing, it's never romantic. And
even though she attempts to seduce him a bit at the end because of, and that's another, like, there's a lot of themes going. There's a bit of Freudian stuff in this film.
Again, her relationship with sex.
And her biological father as well.
Yeah.
Like there's something there that it's never explicitly abuse, but there's something there.
They do a good job with the fireman character, because he's always you're always wondering.
Yeah.
Cuz he's a weird guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a creepy guy, but he's not sex creepy. Is the idea, where he's not, to her, he's just wants to be her dad.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad guy.
No,
until he does bad things.
He does a murder. We don't know We don't know how responsible he is for his son's death.
Yes.
That's
also,
never clear.
The murder is very passive.
Yeah.
Like he's not a good guy. He's a fucked up. Everybody's fucked up. That's sort of the point.
Yeah.
And so she goes into labor. And at first he like when she tries to seduce him, that she crosses a line basically.
Yeah.
Because he's like, no, my son wouldn't try to seduce me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And so he almost walks out, and then he realizes she's in labor. They've been setting up the fact that he's an EMT. He's a fireman.
Yeah.
So he delivers the baby. She dies in childbirth. And then they don't show us the baby for a while, and then he lies down with it. And that's what I like. That was the thing that I was like, oh, of course she's going to give him the son he wants. Of course, that's how it's going to end. And so he's lying
Robo
there.
Baby.
Yeah, and the last shot is him holding the baby, and the baby has like cybernetic, like
it has like a metal spine and like a metal skull plate in the same spot that she had it.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah. He looks like the cannibal from Judge Dredd, the Stallone version.
Yeah, he does.
It's pretty sweet.
I think that so. The weirdest
she also in between that scene, the night before at the fireman rave, where she gets on top of a fire truck and dances like she knows how to dance, like an exotic dancer. And
that was a great scene.
Kind of confuses all the firemen.
She starts presenting to the firemen, and they all believe she's the chief's son.
Yeah.
So they're all just taken back. That was amazing.
Yeah. But then she has sex with a fire truck that night.
Yeah, she sure does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew that was because. I mean, come on, look at that meat market she walked into with all those fire trucks.
There's some fucking swole dudes at this firehouse.
Oh, I meant the cars. That's
true. Yeah,
for a car fucker.
For her specific
heaven.
thing. Yeah. There's some gleaming, shiny red fire engines.
Yeah, look at those hunks.
It is. You're right. It is a real meat market.
Yeah, it is. So like, yeah, I had a feeling that was inevitable because it's like, how could she not?
Well, and
it's also a real like a fuck the pain away fireman situation where she's like kind of not. She's like in a conflicted place, and she just needs to fuck something.
Yeah,
and it's a fireman or a fire truck rather.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on in this movie. There's
a lot going on. The way I interpret the car stuff, because honestly, if you remove that from the movie, it's not a surreal film at all. It's just a very straightforward story. My feeling on the car stuff is that the main arc that this director, she must have wrote it too. Yeah, she's co-wrote it. Is my feeling is that she wanted a story about this pregnant lady who had this very specific attitude and was a sociopath and like very much coming out of trauma. Like she wanted the father-son thing, and the baby thing is the ultimate arc where it's like he gets his baby at the end. I think, again, not having read anything about this, I'm just guessing, is that the question of how did she become pregnant, the obvious answer is something like sexual assault. And maybe that's what it symbolizes, because it's very much a baby she doesn't want. But I think ultimately they're like, why can't it just be cars? Why can't she just fuck a car and be pregnant with a car? Because it symbolizes this like monster in her that she's unsure about, right? That's killing her. What was your interpretation? That was kind of how
I think it's her trauma.
I saw it. Yeah.
It just represents her trauma, and she's carrying it with her, and she's trying to hide it.
And he takes her trauma and loves it. Well,
he accepts it. He accepts it.
Yeah.
And I think like a big part of this is trauma and acceptance. This is my read. Again, this is just my read. I could be totally wrong, but like I kept thinking, because it is such a mind fuck of an element to add to a movie like this. So it's like, well, this means something clearly. So I was thinking about it the whole time I was watching it.
Yeah. It's a mind fuck, but it weirdly works really naturally in the film.
But I mean, it's so loud that you're like, this means something. So I was thinking about it the whole time. But like the first thing we see her do is she's just being an annoying little kid, but just not in any especially egregious way, just a little kid annoying. Right. And her dad has no patience for it and reacts very overbearingly. Doesn't even attempt to
he doesn't mean to hurt her, but he's an asshole.
He's an asshole, and he's kind of rejecting her basically, and causes her trauma. So it's like, and at that point, her trauma is literally on her mind, like it's in her brain. It's a metal plate in her head.
Also, it's in a car.
It's in a car. Yeah. So she develops this relationship with cars, with trauma, with her dad. It's connected to affection and sex and violence and injury.
It all makes sense because a car is the source of her trauma.
Yes,
and now she's impregnated with the source of her trauma.
Yeah, she's carrying it with her and trying to hide it, and I think all these elements are sort of layered on each other, and it might not be a literal thing. It's not like this means this. I don't think it is. I think it's just meant to be an exploration of these themes.
Yeah, in the world of the film, she fucked a car.
Yeah,
like it's not like she thought it up. It's not in her head.
No, it happened. No. She gives birth to Cyber Baby.
Yeah, that is what happens in the movie, and it clearly symbolizes. Yeah, I think it's a cluster of things more than one thing, because that just makes the most sense. Is that it's a little vague like that? Yeah,
and it's a little there's the bit about. I mean, I've already said it, but how she connects violence with sex and affection. So it's not even, she always murders as like an escalation of affection or an escalation of sex.
What they do, I really liked how they did that because, the reveal is that what you're saying, because at first it's a guy kissing her and she doesn't want to be kissed or she was trying to go home. And it feels like, that's like self-defense. Yes, she's acting very, very like nonchalant about it. And then you realize, oh no, that they do a good job because they then present a woman where you're like, oh, this lady's great. They're having a loving relation. Oh, she killed her. Yep. And then you realize like, oh, okay, so it doesn't matter the context. Mm-hmm. It's the connection of sex and affection with murder.
Yeah. And then there's the fire elements, like the car she dances with and then has sex with and is impregnated by is covered in flame decals. She uses fire, a fire that accidentally goes out of control, and she just uses that opportunity to get rid of her old parents, specifically her dad. Yeah. And then her new dad is a firefighter who lost a son in a fire.
The fire almost represents his trauma.
Because it's also cleansing because like a big for the longest time, because they wanted to keep the plot of this movie under wraps, it was the plot description was just a definition of what titanium is, and that it's specifically heat resistant.
Okay, yeah.
So I think that's an element. But you're right. Like the fire is kind of his trauma. But there's a lot. Like I said,
the titanium is her trauma.
Yeah,
it's metal and fire.
Yeah,
those two elements combined
can coexist.
Yeah, it's
they can coexist without altering each other.
Right.
I think. I mean, again, like this, we're just guessing because there's a lot in this movie. There's a lot going on, and there's also the elements of acceptance of not having to feel like you have to hide your true self. There's a lot of stuff about how and then how that relates to how you present and.
Yeah, her parents are again very clinical. They do this thing where, when her stomach hurts initially, the dad like checks her out, like a doctor would.
Yeah,
and it's very like, ugh. Like it's just they seem very closed off as a family. They're not talking about the things.
Yeah, they have a whole breakfast where they don't like they move around each other in the kitchen without ever looking at each other or saying anything. And then there's this news broadcast in the background talking about how they think there might be a serial murderer, and the dad's like reacting to it. So it seems like he's aware of what is going on with her, but he just doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Right. I would argue the firemen, it's a similar situation where there's this, they're both feeding each other's delusions.
Yeah.
It's this denial between them. But it's like oddly healthy, or like, I guess it's nothing's healthy.
It gets resolved at the end. Like the masks come off at the end.
Right.
So they do end up kind of healing each other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she super dies.
Well, yeah, she dies, but like thematically.
Yes. Yeah. for sure.
Like she's it's like when she dies, like that's the first time she's ever vulnerable, and it's by choice.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Like she goes to him to be vulnerable, and initially it tries to seduce him just because she's so confused about what that means for her.
Right.
Like the whole affection leads to violence, and also, I mean, again, this is just me, a dumb guy trying to parse what this movie means.
Well, I mean,
but I think that's what it means.
Yeah, it's not like the movie spells it out.
No,
I mean, it's for me why I like this movie a lot. And Raw is similar, but I would say Raw, I don't want to say does a better job. It's that it's still a movie. It's playing out like a movie. It hits all the beats. It's fun. Like the fireman who's killing it. His name is Vincent Linden. He's doing such a good job. He steals the show in every scene he's in because he's just such a fucking weirdo. And his dancing, God is dancing. It does all what a movie would do, like being entertaining while having a deeper meaning. But I think the exchanges that meaning is harder to decipher for that reason, right? It's more like themes than a meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Raw is similar, where it's like there's themes, but like it's not a literal translation, and that's what this is. And that's, I don't know, what some of my favorite types of movies do that, where it's like, it's just like sort of a whiteboard filled with words, as opposed to like a very literal thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not. Maybe we missed a very obvious thing. Maybe the director's like, no, it's specifically about this.
I'm sure, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it is to her. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, part of designing a film this way is leaving it open for interpretation.
Yeah, it's like a painting, but it's a very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's trying to make you feel something, but also not bore you. And this movie did not bore me. This is one of those movies where in the end you just sit there and you're like, whew, all right.
Yeah, that was a film. Yeah.
That was a fucking movie.
'Twas a motion picture.
It never, in my opinion, it never did anything upsetting, which is funny considering that it has murder and body horror.
Yeah, but the body horror is pretty light. I mean, it's a little...
Yeah, I watched it with Hannah, who hates body horror, and she didn't mind.
Yeah. And like we said, the murders kind of... Well, no, the murders she commits in the house are very much on screen.
Yeah, there's some upsetting murders, but again, it's I don't know. I was always on her side, which is funny because she's a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, yeah, get that stool in that guy's mouth. He's going to tell on you otherwise.
She's like a spider. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like a spider.
Yeah, very much so.
But so it's interesting to spend like the first half of the movie, you're just filled with dread for the people around her because she has that fucking that
hairpin,
spike,
the
yeah,
chopstick.
it's just like,
so whenever she takes that out, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And it's like anytime anyone reaches out for her, it's like, don't do that. Don't touch her.
And that's what it is that he's like this very specific type of weirdo that like almost breaks her. Where it's like she can't fucking figure him out.
Yeah.
And he's the weird dancing and like, it's just,
he's a fucking mess.
Yeah, he's a beautiful mess.
He's such a mess that it confounds her.
Exactly.
This spider-brained sociopath.
Yeah,
confounds her.
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's a fascinating movie for sure.
Yeah.
And I think like as what I was saying is for the first half of the movie, I was very tense for me watching because I hadn't quite started to parse together what I thought the film was trying to say, so I just assumed everyone around her was in immediate danger. And after a while, when she gets on the bus and sees what her life is probably going to be like if she leaves, and then decides to get off and go back, and then decides not to murder him, and decides to just fine, I'll be his son because this is nice. It was like, oh, okay. So then I'm not worried for anyone anymore after that. It's just
Right.
I don't know. It's
Yeah, because like, okay, she's trying not to kill people now. Yeah.
And so like at that point, like what seemed to be just if she just stabs people at random, like it became more clear. It's like, oh, those are very purposeful, and this is probably what that means, et cetera, et cetera. So you get a clearer picture of the character, and she's not really spider-brained, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's a fucking fascinating movie. It gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, this director, I can't fucking wait for her next film. This and Raw, she's killing it. It's just, it's extremely my shit. And I think for, a lot of people, like if you don't mind a little body horror, both Raw and this, are delightful films. They have a weird humor to them, like a dark humor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not afraid to be weird. They're structured really well. There's a lot of stuff gets paid off,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't feel dissatisfied.
The whole pregnancy
and that's what
is
I mean,
like bookended, like it's that first exam by her real quote unquote dad, and then the birth scene with her found dad, her chosen dad at the end. It's very different.
It's very much my favorite type of writing, where it's structured but weird. It's proving that you can do the structure of a film while being fucking
weird.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of that has
crazy idea.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the fact that you can put anything you want on a structure of any film. And it's weird that movies don't get weirder about that for that reason. Where it's like, you write a buddy cop movie and it's like, I don't know, what if one of the cops is a dinosaur in a world of dinosaurs? See, that would be a perfect movie if it existed, Tom. But what I'm saying?
It's a shame no film like that has ever been created.
Exactly.
Man, what would you even call that?
I don't know.
I'd probably call it Theodore Rex, I think.
Yeah.
So T-Rex. There we go.
That sort of stuff, it's like, why not? Why not do that shit more? And this very much does it, and manages to be a very, very fucking interesting and entertaining and weird film.
Dude, yeah. This is all of the above. What a film.
Yeah. I really like this movie. This might be one of my favorites of the year. I'm trying to think of a movie that I liked more.
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's been a few good ones. I think my favorites, and these are pretty different. Outside of this, I'm still thinking about this movie. I'm still chewing on it.
Sure.
Are like The Green Knight and fucking the Suicide Squad, honestly.
Suicide Squad was really fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Those are all good picks.
And Green Knight was fun. Just fucking slaps from beginning to end.
I've seen that movie like 3 times for some reason. Yeah. Fuck. All right. Yeah, I have nothing more to say about this movie, except that I really liked it. And if you're, I don't know. I don't know if like who would like this movie. I like to think about who would like this movie.
It's hard.
What? It's hard.
It's hard to think of how to recommend this movie.
Right, because if you like weird, fucked up, but also kind of sweet films, that's what this is. It's more sweet, I think, than fucked up. Ultimately,
once you get to the end, like once you get the full picture of what the movie is saying, then I would agree. There's still some tension throughout.
It's not a cynical film
because you're like, I don't know. Because again, everybody's such a maniac in the movie. You're like, any number of these seemingly sweet scenes could spiral out of control.
Right. It's one of those movies that's the equivalent of like a drunk guy at a bar where you're like, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
And then are we going to be cool? Are you going to be cool?
And then he just like fucking sings Journey and goes home in a cab. And you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's like one of those. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Like, don't watch it with children.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Don't watch it with your grandma. Unless your grandma's cool.
Unless your grandma's cool.
Yeah, and she might be.
Unless your grandma smokes cigarettes and wears sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly. Those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Titane, folks. And check out her other film, Raw. Both I think is like, if there's specific things that like trigger you, that it might like Raw. Neither of these films had those things that maybe go, ugh, but they both very much. Raw is about a vegan going to college, I believe, who starts learning that she sure likes eating people. So like, yeah, it's you know, there's a lot of imagery in these films that not everybody is going to enjoy. It's grotesque is the word. Both of these films deal with very grotesque imagery, but are very fascinating.
Yeah.
The end.
Yep.
All right.
Period.
Well, period. Listen, folks, thanks for listening. And if you're interested, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there for $5 a month, you get a whole bunch of exclusive podcasts, such as Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac. We have 2 that we do with our sister network over the Small Beans. We do Star Trek: The Next Futurama and Spiel Boys. That's all available on our Patreon for $5 a month. If you want to kick in a little more, you can watch movies with us every Friday night. There's all sorts of shit there. So yeah, go on there.
Will we watch Titane? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
It's possible.
Maybe. I don't know. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store that has all kinds of cool original artwork and designs for for all our shows. You can get on T-shirts and stickers and mugs, posters, all kinds of things. So, check that out.
Check it out. Also, if
dinks.
you like having sex with cars, this is like the only movie for you.
Honestly,
right?
Yeah.
Like, finally.
Certainly the most critically acclaimed film of 2021 that will speak specifically to your interests.
Yeah, fucking cars.
Yeah.
You car fucker.
Yeah, go nuts.
Go nuts, you dirty car fucker.